So, Scott, what have you been up to?
Dude, well, I have been playing a lot of guitar. 2020 obviously was a thing. But it honestly kind of like was want to be sensitive to the fact that it was like a really tough year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was. It's kind of polarizing in that way. At the same time, it certainly provided some new avenues for me because I don't know. I feel like everybody can at least say that it changed up what you were used to, whether that's work or day-to-day life and just like, what your routines are and everything. Obviously, it affected everybody in some way. So for me, it was more on the work side of things because obviously our industry entirely shut down.
Right.
So can't go anywhere, can't tour, what are we going to do? And so the band, we stayed busy writing stuff, which was cool. We put out Oh Yeah a couple weeks ago. New song coming out this week that we also worked on during quarantine. And then we have a few more too. So that was all really cool. But right at the beginning, it was really disorienting. It was like, what are we going to do? Oh no. And my friend and producer, songwriter, David Leonard hit me up and was like, hey, I've got some records that I'm doing that are still going to go, like we've already done all the pre-production on them conveniently and we just have to track them and we're going to still do it, even though it's like, we'll be safe and stuff, but it's like, do you have like a setup where you can record at home? And I was like, yes. And then I was like, now I got to figure out how to set up some stuff and record it home. But that first record that he asked me to help him out with was, I'm getting the order confused here, but I think it was Brandon Lake's album that he did. So I was in the garage at my house with a laptop and a few microphones and my Benson and just like my touring rig and just like mic'd everything up. And I was like, I actually did buy like a really big ISO box, and like it was all padded and it was like over in the corner. It was still pretty loud in there. And like one of the first days of recording, Leah, my wife, was like on a walk with the kids and she was like, hey, we should probably figure out how to turn this down like just a little bit because 10 houses down, you can hear the... What's up, my guy? You got to hear? She was like 10 houses down, you can hear just shredding. And I was like, that's probably not a good look for the neighbors. So anyways, I ended up tracking all of Brandon, or not all of it. I did the songs David did. I think like 6 or 7 songs in my garage. And it was like March. It was freezing. It was crazy. And it went really well. And then we did Josh Baldwin. That's what it was, because we did Josh Baldwin's record and it was like the stuff had started to loosen up a little bit, like guideline wise. So we came over here to the studio. I did some of it at the house and some of it at the studio and just like kind of started getting, more into that world. And, I've always done session stuff off and on over the years, but traditionally I've never had like great relationships with producers and all that stuff because I'm kind of like the guy that's always out of town a little bit. Because the band has such a schedule with touring, generally, it has always been something that has hindered my like entrance into that world a little bit, which has been totally fine. And it's been like awesome when it did happen, but it hasn't been anything even remotely reliable. You know what I mean? So that started happening. I just, hit up a few people, took some people out to coffee, was like, yo, I'm around if you ever want to work. And started doing a lot of stuff, and has been really amazing. And I went from like a year ago, like barely knowing how to like run Logic to like, you know, playing on probably 2 or 3 songs a week. So it's just like been like a really crazy shift for me, and I very likely would not have happened outside of like some huge like schedule shift, like a pandemic. Surely there's a different way that it could have come about, but for me it was like, okay, this is something that I have always aspired to do, like maybe later in life when touring slows down, and you know, if I still want to make music, this is an avenue I could try to go for, like when I'm old, like 40.
Real old,
like anyways, and I was just super fortunate for it to I don't know, kind of come in the way that it did, because I don't know, I was sort of like, well, I can either sit at home and make another cocktail and sit here and wish that this was all going to come back. You remember this? I don't know if you guys were like traveling at the time, but like it was like, yeah, 2 weeks to stop the spread.
Yep.
Yeah, remember that?
2 weeks.
Insane, dude. Here we are like a year and something later. But I was literally like, yeah, I mean, I guess it'll probably be like a couple weeks. Like, it's kind of nice. Actually, I get to come home, see everybody, relax a little bit. And then it was just like, oh, it's going to push back to August. And I'm like, okay, August, you know, it's like 3 months. Like, that's going to be pretty crazy. Whenever it finally does come back around, then it was just like, yeah, you guys might not go out next year even. And it was just like, oh, okay, let's do something different.
You guys were on tour and had to cancel your tour, right? Because I think Kansas City was one of the last shows you played.
Yes, it was the second to last show we played.
Okay.
As I recall, I think we played Kansas City. We went up to Minneapolis. And then Minneapolis was the day they called us and they were like, yeah, this is over. We're going home. Because the shows were starting to drop like flies, like right around the time we were in Kansas City. It was like, hey guys, this coronavirus thing, blah, blah, blah. New York or Washington, D.C. is canceled. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, interesting. Well, I hate playing in D.C. anyways. So, and then they were like, yeah, New York is also canceled. And I was like, dang. Are we still going to go hang out a little bit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like totally there yet. I'm just like, oh, that's a bummer. But like, can we still have a day off there? You know? Right. And then, you know, like 2 or 3 more canceled. It was starting to get alarming. It was like, okay, hold up. What? And then our agent called and was like, this is happening. Live Nation canceled every show. Like, y'all are playing tonight, and then you're getting on the bus and coming home. And we were just like, whoa. And then it was strange because we were so far away in Minneapolis, that we couldn't get home in one bus drive. So we had to go to Chicago and just sit for a day. And that was extremely disorienting because it was like, we're supposed to be playing a show today. The entire nation is shutting down. And I'm just in Chicago on a tour bus and I can't go anywhere.
Right.
And it was just like, what's happening? And everybody, you know, like we had like 10 people on the bus, like, and everybody's kind of like hanging out, but also like, what's happening? Like as a group, it was just really, really strange. That was like one of the strangest wake ups ever.
Can't socially distance on a tour bus either.
No,
there's
no.
Dude, there wasn't even the word socially distance yet. This was this is like 4 a.m. on coronavirus day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nobody, it was like we hadn't woken up to it yet. Right. But anyways, very strange. That was probably the longest answer to the question.
No, it's a good answer.
I have a question. When because you were doing all this live stuff and now you moved into doing a bunch of sessions over the last year and you're engineering it yourself, which is different than being able to just be in guitar world and have someone else doing all that stuff for you. Did you even have like a studio set up before all this? You started doing sessions? Did you have to go get an interface and pre's and like all that stuff?
I'd done some writing. So I had like a Apogee duet, like 2 channels. And I was like, that's cool. And I just use like a 57 and like a Biodynamic M88, which is what I use on the road. And I just put those up, and I had some really terrible monitors, like some M Audios or something. And then, so I got all that set up. And at the time I had actually, what's really interesting too, is I didn't, for a long time, I didn't have a computer that would like do it. I got really discouraged because my computer was like a few years old and it just like wouldn't keep up, which was really interesting. And then there were a handful of extremely kind and generous folks. I believe Dave Browne was one of them, that was gathered together by a friend of mine who contributed some dollars and ended up buying me this computer, which was crazy. This also is unattached. This conveniently happened about a month before coronavirus started, right, which is extremely strange.
I was talking to him about that in Kansas City at the show you guys were doing here.
Which is that honestly is like, it's by far one of the kindest and most generous things anybody's done for me. And the timing of it is just absolutely absurd, because like, had that not happened, well, I mean, I would have had to just buy myself a really expensive computer once all this work started coming in, which was crazy. But I was just kind of like really inspired and like kind of ready to go because of it. And it was like, like literally, I think one of the first weeks of quarantine is when my computer shipped. And I was just like, this is insane. And so anyways, I got that and I was all set up. And like I said, I'd done some writing and some stuff. So I had like Logic and that. But then I just slowly started having to like piece it all together, because I was very like raw recording these guitar tracks. You know what I mean? I was like, I wasn't on the console app or anything. Like I had no outboard gear. I'm just going duet with mics and pedals and stuff into my DAW, and then, making sure I don't blow it up, and then trying to like do some comp and some stuff on the back end to make it sound like good. Which I listened back to some of those tracks and I'm like, I stand by that. Sounds good. It's kind of amazing what you can accomplish. Now, obviously, there's like the 20% that makes it like way more exciting and professional.
But just the sprinkle, that last little 10%. I mean,
the topping. And so I've ventured into that land now that I've been doing it more and more. I've just been kind of, and I mean, gosh, I've seen your studio. It's freaking sick. But it's just like the amount of stuff that you could just like get is insane. And I've had to like totally pace myself, because I'm just like, yes, I need that freaking Shadow Hills compressor. I need it so bad.
You do need that.
So right now I'm just doing my Benson, and I got a Universal Audio aux a while back that I love. It's one of the most useful things. And so I can run a mic now with that, or my mic set up with that. I can also take the lines in. And then I'm on Universal Audio, so I've got all the console stuff. And then I run like my 2 main guitar lines into a pair of 512s, which are kind of the jam, dude. It leveled up so hard when I started doing that too. I was just like, oh, there it is. They were like within literally like 30 seconds. I just plugged the mics in and I was just like, yep, that sounds about 10 times better.
API is a vibe.
It is for sure. So I got my little lunchbox here that is just, you know, I got a little like Pultec style EQ in there, and like actually one of the JHS 500 series, the Emperor Chorus.
Mm-hmm.
The 500 series of that is sick. I use it all the time. I use it on bass a lot. Like,
do you have one or do you have two of them? Like, do you have two? Yeah, they're awesome. I think I have a couple of them.
Can you do stereo with two? Is that what you're saying now?
Yeah, I was doing that, or like throwing them on Junos and stuff. All that too is really sounds so good.
I bet. Yeah, I love how easy it is because I have it like in my third slot on there. And so my first channel, my first 512 channel runs over to it. And then you can just engage it or disengage it with that switch. And so it's so easy. It's just literally like turning on your chorus pedal. But all the time, whenever I'm doing bass and stuff, which I've ended up doing a lot, tracking a lot of bass, which is really fun, especially on like more pop kind of things, straight into the API, flip on the chorus with the bass, and you're just like freaking grooving, and you're just running it straight into those things. No pedals necessary.
I do love some bass chorus. I don't normally admit it, but I feel like I put it on almost all the time. Some type of drive a little bit, and then some chorus.
Nice. It changes the bass game for me. I don't know why, but the more you listen to it, the more I listen to music, any like cool bass line in a pop song, it always has chorus on it. There's never a dry one. And so I'm just like, oh, I should do that too.
I feel like you can hear the notes of the bass more, I think is why, you know what I mean? Like the tonal stuff, it somehow makes it pop. That's awesome.
I agree. So yes, it has been painstaking. The amount of YouTube videos I've watched, the amount of like UA stuff that I've read, like the amount of questions I've asked our main engineer, Brad King here, like has been absurd. You know, just trying to make it sound good. You know what I mean? But yeah,
like an hour to track the guitar, and then I have to spend 2 hours watching YouTube videos to get it to actually what I need to do.
Dude, you're so right. And there's like tracking yourself too is just a situation, because you know, like you are totally in the part writing mindset. You're just like, all right, I'm focused on like the part being right, feeling good with the other like chords and things that are being played in the song, also playing it in time, which is, you know, recording yourself is the true rubric of like how good you are because you're sitting there and you're just like, I hear this part and it's awesome. And then you play it. And the amount of times that I've played it and been like, yeah, I'm gonna listen back. And I like listen back and I'm just like, that sucks. Literally, that does not sound anything like what I thought it sounded like. I'm late. I'm like inconsistently late. Like every now and then I'll be on and then I'll be way late and it'll just be like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
I was going to ask you about that because that's hard for me all the time because you're like wrestling between being producer and then kind of engineer. So there has to be some level of quality control. Like you have to be paying attention, making sure, but then you're trying to jump in to be a guitar player. And then I'm just ADD, like looking like I'm not, or I do a great take and then I look and realize I had only hit play and not record. And then you're like,
I literally was
someone else here.
That was one of the hardest, like, realizations. It's just like the workflow of tracking yourself is, because now whenever I go and I do a session where I'm just playing, I'm just like, I did that whole song, like all the leads, all the rhythms, all the layers and stuff. That was like 3 hours, and I'm just done. You just pack up and you leave, and you're just like, yes. And then I'll come in here and I'll be like, yeah, I should be able to get you that by lunchtime. And I'm like, what am I thinking? There's no way I can get you that by lunchtime. It's like 5 p.m. and I'm scrambling. You know what I mean? Like it takes so long because you're like, yeah, oh, I just played the best take and I forgot to record. So, or like I wasn't paying attention to my my IO over here and I freaking blew it up and I peaked or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's so annoying. What's up?
It makes the sessions really nice when there is a producer. It's kind of like in relation, they're not stressful at all now because there's someone else quality control and I can just play and they'll tell me if it's good or not. And you don't get stuck in the loop where is this good? Is it not good? You talk to yourself. I don't know if this is good.
You're having to self-produce the whole time. You're like, yeah, it's so awesome whenever I play something that I'm like, okay, is that like risky and cool or is that just like not a vibe? And it's like so nice to have someone being like, yeah, I don't like that. Or, dude, hey, that's a really great part. Let's go ahead and get that track and then move on. And I'm like, I think I can play it a little bit better. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't have that person whenever you're in there by yourself.
Yeah, it's a mental, it's such a headspace and it costs so much more time. I was working on something that I was doing and I did a guitar solo for it. I just showed up, I did like a take and I was sitting in the control room. I was like, no, man, I can get it better. And Jared, the producer, was like, man, I think it's fine. Like, it was good. And 6 hours later, I think Ben was there actually. I came out of the room and I said, well, just use the first one. It's fine. Like, you wasted half your day. And I'm like, shut up. No, I don't know why I do this.
I did that. Yeah. Gosh, dude, you're right. It's a thing. What are you guys building pedals and stuff?
What's that?
You guys been building some pedals?
Man, we're just trying to keep up. We're so far back ordered. It's absurd. And then we're trying to design and develop new stuff. So it's a bit crazy.
That. Well, that's what happens when you make amazing things.
I mean, that's what they tell me.
Like this.
What have you been using that for lately?
This is the Browne Amplification T4.
Indeed it is.
As you know. But we just put out a song called Oh Yeah.
Colony House, in case somehow you're watching this or listening to this and you don't know.
Yes, we just put out a song called Oh Yeah. And it features two bass riffs happening at the same time. And I play the higher bass part. And I've been using T4 fuzz on my bass. And actually through my guitar amp live, which is pretty cool. You know, I texted Chris Benson from Benson Amps and I was like, hey, is this gonna like blow up my speaker or anything? And he was like, probably not.
Probably not. Maybe.
And I was like, okay, cool. It's high. So I can't imagine that it would because it's higher. If it was like real low all the time, probably wear it out.
I mean, if you were running real loud and clipping real hard, you might blow up your speaker.
Yeah. That'd be honestly kind of cool if I did.
Yeah. Just maybe carry a spare.
That would be a very rock and roll moment to actually blow the speaker.
But yeah, there's so much headroom on those big Benson cabs. I'm not super worried about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, T4, man, it is absolutely the vibe.
So glad to hear that you're loving it.
Oh yeah. You guys make stuff that is so like, it is obviously made by people who play and have real needs. Like, I got a protein. I'm not going to say that I was like ahead of the game or anything, but I certainly had one way before about 1,000 other people had one. And
before like 3,000 other people had them.
Yeah, you're right. Dang, that's tight that you've sold that many. But I related so much to the ethos behind the pedal, which, as I recall, Dave was explaining to me, was Adam had been talking about like going into backline situations and having like terrible amps and just being like, like I'm playing another Hot Rod Deluxe. Like, how am I going to make this thing sound good? And just needing to have like basically a dual drive that you could work off of when you're in that sort of situation to give you some sort of like preamp awesomeness and kind of transformed like a flat bland amp into something that was like really usable. And I was just like, so relatable. Give me one of those right now. Cause dude, just the for everybody who travels and plays music or not, whatever. The backline amp situation or the like, hey, yeah, you can use my amp situation. And you're like, I don't really want to take mine. So cool. And then you show up and you're just like,
Oops.
this is what we're working with here. There is nothing like that feeling. And to have a tool that can fix that is really nice. That's honestly one of the main reasons that I keep mine on there, because it is just such a nice safety measure. It also sounds real nice with the Benson.
Love it.
Oh yeah.
Which Benson are you running?
I've got the Chimera, I think is how you say it. I think that's his first.
Is that how you say? I've wondered. I've read that so many times, and I don't want to talk about it because I don't know how to say it. I don't want to look. I'm like Chimera.
See, I'm the same. I can, because it basically has the word chime in it, and so I'm like, is it Chimera? Because
Pretty sure it's chimichanga.
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 I've got the Benson chimichanga. Where'd you get that? How much was it? How long did you have to be on the wait list? Do the people on this podcast know that Dave Browne also makes guitars, not just pedals?
We don't really want them to know that because it's such a small scale that I'm able to produce them that I'm trying not to really increase demand at all.
Okay. I'm pretty sure me and Adam, between the two of us, possess the lion's share of all Browne electric guitars.
Actually, how many Browne guitars exist?
There's not that many. Less than 50.
How many have you sent to someone that is not like a friend? That's not me, Adam, or Cassie.
That's true.
Probably 15.
15? Dude, one day those things are going to be worth 10 G's. That is the way to do it. All these guys.
Get them all back then.
That would be
like, I'm going to sell it to you for this, but I want a percentage of the
value.
I did buy one of my amplifiers back recently.
Why?
I had a guy who hit me up who had bought a stereo pair. I'd built him a pair of amplifiers, and he was going to sell one and wanted me to help him sell it. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just buy it? Because he was like, I think it's going to be real hot commodity and whatever. And I was like, you're going to have to answer so many questions because nobody knows what this is. And I'm going to have to answer so many questions. And I don't actually own one of these amps that I built, 10 or 12 of. And I'd really like to have one. So why don't you just sell it to me?
That is amazing. Is that the same one you?
What's that?
Is that the same one you built for Steven?
Yes. The SupaClean. The same one that Steven has.
It's called SupaClean?
Yeah. Supa.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually what you guys.
Yeah, that's what I actually call it.
SupaClean.
It doesn't say that anywhere on the amp, but
that's such a good amp name, dude. The SupaClean. Wow.
They're just sad. You know what happened to a couple of those? It makes me really sad.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
I do know what happened. There was a church that had several of these amps. And at some point they switched and started using other amps, and new management came in and they needed new tubes and whatever. And somebody put them in a dumpster. And it was found out later where did those go? And somebody said, oh, we were cleaning out. We threw those away.
Because I wanted them. I said, if we're not going to use them, I'll literally take them. And then they were like, well, I think they were broken. They didn't power. I'm like, they were broken. So they threw. So
power tube goes and it blows a fuse, and then the light doesn't come on anymore. So they got tossed.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, you spend like literally 5 minutes and $5, and you can fix that.
I would have fixed them for free.
Oh my gosh, it's so terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's real issues in the world, poverty, hunger, but certain things like that still really hit my soul very hard.
There was 2 of them too. They threw 2 of them away.
It speaks to a much larger issue for sure. It's like, what about that scenario makes you want to totally escape and not put in the work? Yeah, I've been using this Benson and then one of those Chris Stapleton hand-wired Princetons. You ever played one of those?
Saw about those the other day. I got all excited about it. He actually has an original one of those, that model Princeton.
What year is it? I always forget. Is it 50s, 60s?
I feel like it's early 60s. The brown face.
That's so cool.
His is all like, the Tolex is all ripped off and it got some water damage and it's all rusted. It's one of the coolest looking amps you've ever seen. I think it's a 62.
Yeah,
I don't have an old Princeton. Would love one. I just got to get one day.
They just sound great all the time.
Yeah.
And they're not picky with where you put a mic, I feel like. And they're not so loud that the neighbors will murder you or other people in the studio. Yeah.
I love that. That's so nice. I do use this a good bit.
That little Silvertone.
Kind of like all in a little line over there, and I can just change the speaker cable out in the back. And I had that one modded by a guy here in Nashville to put a speaker cable on it. That way I could change that. Well, I wanted to take it out on the road, and I took it to this guy, and he was like, "This, these are kind of like." I recorded our entire second record for the most part on this Silvertone and my Matchless Spitfire that I had at the time. I was using them both, and I was like, this is such a cool sound. It's like such a contrasted, super bright, chimey, no low end, super gushy and compressed and no top end, kind of just like a sandwich. And so I did that for a while, and that really sounded awesome on a record. We did our whole second record. That was pretty much my setup. And so I wanted to take the same thing out on the road, but I was like, I need to get this amp modded, and it had a rip in the speaker. And I was like, I really want to use this not as a head, so to speak. I'd love to use it as like a combo. And so I had him rebuild the cone and put a new, it's the same speaker, but he rebuilt the cone or something in it, with a old spec Alnico or whatever. Anyways, so it's still got the original speaker in it and got it all went through it all, this guy here in Nashville, and it's pretty sick. I had him try hype it up a little bit, so it was could get a little bit more brightness out of it. Still have to turn the tone knob all the way up, but it sounds so cool, especially in studio land where you can just push it through an EQ and trim it up a little bit. It sounds so good.
I love those amps.
All the stuff that you want out of a good overdrive pedal without having to compress it and do all that stuff. It kind of does it by itself somehow. It's just so nice.
Yeah. Little amps that you can turn up all the way are really fun.
I was going to ask, I've never had one. Do you just turn it up? Do you leave it volume on 10 and just?
I do a lot of times. I mean, it cleans up. No, it doesn't. It doesn't really clean up. It's it gets less extra. It can be on 5, it can be just a really vibey, how do I say this? Low dynamic, dirty sound.
Mm-hmm.
If it's scratchy, if that makes sense, it would be something you wouldn't play something beautiful on it or something chimey on it, but you would play a verse part on it where you are strumming or you're picking or you know what I mean? It can be low dynamic, but it's not going to be probably your big hook. It's going to be some fun stuff. So I like to use it in any sort of a part where it's hey, we just need some space to be filled on this song, but it's more rhythmic. And so, because I'm not using it with a ton of effects usually, because it doesn't sound that good with verb and all that kind of stuff on it, because there's so much coming from the amp that doesn't verb well. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Kind of just collapses on itself.
You need to put the verb after all that business.
Yeah, for sure. Or put it in a room or something, and that sounds really cool. But it's definitely more of like a lower fi kind of thing, but it does come down from like super pushed. But like volume on 10, tone on 10 is like super cool. And it's the 1482 as well. So it's got the tremolo that is the like pretty classic like silver tone style tremolo, and it's just like real boxy and ba 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 ba. And it's like that is a really cool thing to have on there as well. So I use it a lot for like doing baritone stuff.
Oh yeah.
But because those like Jerry Jones baritones are already so bright, you can literally like just like blast your eardrum off if you accidentally pick one too hard. So I'll put it in that and put that tremolo on it and like send it through a Space Echo or something, and you're just like.
Do you have a Space Echo?
The glory just starts coming down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a real one, but so I'm like at the studio in downtown Franklin. This is the shed, Studio B. You're looking at it. This is it. It's a room with some treatment and a screen and some speakers. And then my lunchbox and some pianos and stuff. But in the big room, which is outside of this door, and then there's like a little courtyard and then the big house. And they have one of those, who makes it? It's called the Tape Fix.
Echo Fix?
Echo Fix, yes.
Yes.
Retro Gear Shop.
That's a weird Space Echo.
Yeah.
I'm looking that up. I gotta know what that is. I didn't know about that.
It's the same thing as like the 201.
Yeah.
Or the 501. 201.
201.
I think it's the
green.
No. Yes, the green one.
Not the one that I really want, which Park actually just got. We just recorded with a guy named Chad Copeland, some new Colonial stuff down in not Kansas City. I said that because I was looking right at your hat.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City, south of Oklahoma City, Norman. And he has, and we tracked a ton of guitars and bass through the Chorus Echo, like that's the 501, right?
Right.
And so the 201 would be the green one, the tape delay. And so at the room next door, they have one, and it's awesome. So I love to just go in there and snag it after I've done a session, come back in here and just print a handful of things through it. Because that one, the Echo Fix or whatever, has the spring reverb, but then it also has like a modded, since they go through them and fix them, like make them super reliable and stuff. He also puts a digital reverb on it. So you can put this chorusing kind of digital reverb or the Space Echo like spring reverb thing on it. And then so I'll just like come out of my Apollo and run a handful of tracks, print them through there and run them back in, and it's nice. I don't know either. Yeah, I love those Chorus Echoes because they have a preamp. And so what's awesome is you put a bass into it and like you put this tiny bit of spring reverb and chorus on it, but it also like changes the sound of it because you're hitting an analog pre, and it's so sick. Same kind of feel as like driving a Memory Man. Similar.
I love that.
Which those are amazing. And I honestly need to get one. I have been on Craigslist every day trying to buy one for like 2 weeks. And the ones that you find, people are ridiculous about the price of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's trying to charge me $700
mm-hmm.
for one of these big box Deluxe Memory Mans.
So if you have a big box Deluxe Memory Man that has the attached power cord, reach out to us. We'd like to help.
I'll buy it for $400, but not even a spec over $400, and it better be perfect,
including shipping.
You heard it here first, folks.
Including shipping.
Free shipping, 2 day to Amazon.
2-day air only.
Amazon Prime.
And insurance. And I need a certificate of authenticity.
Yes.
And it had better have been in a non-smoking studio.
No, it better say non-smoking. I love that.
And I want the candy, like comes in sweet, Sweetwater packages. Like there better be something in there. So
Mints and some Smarties and a bit of honey.
Scotty, this has been great. We love that you jumped on with us.
Yeah, guys. Thanks. I hope there's something worth listening to here.
Oh, there's lots.
Some rambling.
Fantastic.
I love you guys. I love what you do. And besides that, I think you're really great humans. And I wish we were hanging out in real life.
Me too.